Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. Today, we are talking all about integrity and AI and how they might be shaping a more balanced future for all of us. Could technology really help us live better lives? Well, let's dive into our sources and see what they have to say.
The idea of AI optimizing our well-being is definitely intriguing. We often think about AI solving those huge, complex problems, but what about using AI to help us find balance, in our everyday lives?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And our first source actually jumps right into this idea of standing your ground, right?
Yeah.
Like they define integrity as sticking to your principles even when you're facing pressure from the outside.
Right.
And it uses some interesting examples from history, like Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on the bus.
Yeah, and what's so powerful about that story is how one person's act of integrity like that, it just sparks a whole movement. It wasn't just about her individual experience on that bus. It really challenged the status quo and ultimately, contributed to some really big social change.
Exactly. Yeah. It makes you wonder, though, what enabled her to take that stand in the first place? The source mentions a few things like having a clear moral compass and the courage to act, even when you were afraid. It also points to education as a key factor, too.
Yeah, education can equip us with the knowledge and those critical thinking skills that we really need to navigate complex situations.
Right.
And imagine if we could personalize education even more, really tailoring it to people's individual strengths and passions. AI could play a huge role in making that vision a reality.
That leads perfectly to the second part of the source, which explores how an AI system designed to optimize human well-being might actually work. What would that look like? And it mentions things like personalized data analysis and adaptive learning. But crucially, it's all operating within a very clear ethical framework.
Right.
So instead of AI making decisions for us, it would be more like a tool that gives us insights and recommendations to help us make informed choices that, align with our values and goals.
Exactly. It's more about providing us with information and support rather than just dictating what we should do.
So I'm curious, how might an AI system like that differ from, say, a human life coach? What unique capabilities could AI bring to the table?
Well, one key difference is AI's ability to process and analyze just massive amounts of data. So imagine an AI system that could track your sleep patterns, your activity levels, your social interactions, even your emotional responses to different situations.
Wow.
And by analyzing all of that data, AI could identify patterns and trends that we as individuals might not even be aware of.
So it's like having a super observant friend who can notice things about you that you miss, but without the judgment.
Exactly. And based on that analysis, the AI could offer personalized recommendations. For example, it might notice that you're consistently sleep deprived and suggest adjustments to your schedule or a bedtime routine, or it might recognize that you're feeling socially isolated and suggest ways to connect with friends or engage in activities you enjoy.
That's fascinating. But let's shift gears a bit. What are some practical examples of how AI could enhance specific areas of our lives? The source mentions education, healthcare, and economic systems.
Okay, well, let's start with education. Imagine a world where every student has access to personalized learning experiences that are tailored to their individual needs and learning styles.
Wow, yeah.
AI could analyze a student's strengths, weaknesses, and their learning preferences, and then create a customized curriculum that adapts as they progress.
That would be amazing. It'd be like having a personal tutor who knows exactly how you learn best.
What about healthcare? How could AI contribute to a more balanced and healthy life in that realm?
Well, one area where AI is already making a huge impact is preventative care. Imagine an AI system that analyzes your medical history, your lifestyle choices, and even your genetic predispositions to identify potential health risks before they even become serious problems.
So it's like having a virtual health advisor who's constantly looking out for your well-being. Precisely. And based on that analysis, the AI could offer personalized recommendations for lifestyle changes, preventative screenings, or even early interventions.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge the potential downsides.
Yeah.
The source does mention concerns about privacy and the possibility of us becoming overly reliant on AI for everything.
Those are definitely valid concerns, and they highlight the importance of developing and deploying AI responsibly. We need to ensure that these technologies are being used in a way that benefits individuals and society as a whole without, compromising our privacy, autonomy, or even our control over our own lives.
So it's all about finding that balance between leveraging the power of AI, but also preserving our own agency and decision-making abilities.
Exactly. And that's a conversation that we need to keep having as a society as we continue to explore the potential of AI to really shape our lives.
Absolutely. This has been a thought-provoking discussion so far. We've covered a lot of ground, from the concept of integrity and its historical significance to the potential of AI to enhance our well-being and even transform society as we know it.
Yeah. And we've only just begun to scratch the surface. There's so much more to explore when it comes to the intersection of AI and human flourishing.
Before we delve deeper into those possibilities, let's take a moment to reflect. What are your initial reactions to this concept of AI being used to, optimize our well-being?
Hmm. That's a great question. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What stands out to you so far?
Well, I'm both really excited and a little apprehensive.
Yeah.
The potential benefits are incredible, but I also wonder about those unintended consequences. It's a lot to unpack for sure.
I totally agree. It's a complex issue with far-reaching implications. But I really think by having these conversations and engaging with these ideas thoughtfully, we can hopefully shape a future where AI is used ethically and responsibly to benefit all of humanity.
I like that a lot. We've talked about AI's potential in education and healthcare, but the source also mentions economic systems. How could AI contribute to a more balanced and fair economy?
Well, that's a really complex area, but, AI could potentially help us create systems that are more equitable and opportunity-driven. Like, imagine if AI could analyze economic data to identify patterns of inequality and then suggest adjustments to policies to help create a more level playing field for everyone.
So instead of just relying solely on human judgment, which can sometimes be prone to bias, we could use AI to help us design those systems that are fair and more inclusive.
That's the idea, yeah. AI could really help us move towards an economy that works for everyone, not just a select few. But of course, human oversight and, ethical considerations would be super important in that whole process.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting to think about how AI could not only help us make better individual choices, but also shape these larger systems that affect us all.
Absolutely. And that brings us right back to this idea of balance. It's not just about, achieving individual well-being. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Totally. Speaking of balance, the source dives into how AI could actually help us find more balance in our day-to-day lives.
Mm.
And it talks about AI analyzing data to understand what actually contributes to well-being and identifying those optimal balance points for us.
Yeah. So imagine having an AI assistant that could track your time usage, your energy levels, and even your mood throughout the day. By analyzing those patterns, the AI could provide insights into what activities energize you, what drains you, and how you might adjust your schedule to create a more balanced and fulfilling routine.
Would this AI be like a personal time management guru,
Yeah.
like always nudging us to be more productive and efficient?
It's not necessarily about productivity in that traditional sense. It's more about understanding what really matters to you and making sure that your time and energy are aligned with your values and priorities. It could even help you set healthier boundaries and learn to say no to commitments that just don't serve you.
It is so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of modern life and to feel like we're constantly on and never truly present. Do you think AI could help us break free from that always-on mentality and create more space for reflection and connection?
I think it definitely has the potential to do that. Imagine an AI that reminds you to take breaks throughout the day, to step away from your screens, to engage in activities that nourish your mind and body.
It would be like having a built-in mindfulness coach, always encouraging us to slow down and savor those present moments.
Precisely. And in a world that often feels so overwhelming and chaotic, that ability to just pause, reflect, and reconnect with yourself could be incredibly valuable.
The source also talks about AI helping us understand our own behavioral patterns better. How would that work in practice?
Well, imagine an AI that tracks your mood over time and kind of notes what activities, interactions, or even what environments tend to trigger certain emotions in you. Over time, it could build like a personalized emotional map that helps you understand what brings you joy, what stresses you out, and maybe even how you might navigate those different emotional states more effectively.
It's almost like having a personal therapist who's always observing and analyzing your emotional landscape.
Yeah, it's not meant to replace, human connection or professional support, but it could be a really powerful tool for self-awareness and emotional regulation.
Yeah.
It could even help us identify maybe unhealthy patterns and encourage us to make positive changes in our lives.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I can't help but wonder, about the potential downsides of becoming so reliant on AI for all of these insights and guidance.
Sure.
Do we risk, losing touch with our own intuition and decision-making abilities if we always rely on AI to tell us what to do?
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern. I think it's important to remember that AI is ultimately just a tool. It's not a replacement for human judgment and discernment. The key is to use it in a way that enhances our own capabilities, not diminishes them, right?
So it's about finding that balance between leveraging the insights that AI can provide while also preserving our own autonomy and critical thinking skills.
Precisely. And that requires a very conscious effort on our part, I think, to stay engaged, to question the information that we're given, and ultimately to make our own choices based on our values and priorities.
This all raises a lot of questions about the future, too. Like if AI becomes this integral part of our lives, how will it shape our relationships with each other? How will it shape our communities and even our understanding of what it means to be human?
Those are some really big questions, and honestly, I don't think anyone has all the answers right now. But what's exciting is that we're really at the forefront of this technological revolution. We have the opportunity to shape how AI is developed and used to ensure that it truly serves humanity's best interests.
It's both exhilarating and a little daunting to think about all the possibilities.
Absolutely. But I think by engaging in these conversations, by exploring these ideas with curiosity and open minds, we can hopefully navigate this uncharted territory thoughtfully and responsibly.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey so far. We've explored the historical roots of integrity, the potential of AI to enhance our well-being, and even those broader societal implications of this technology.
And we've really only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover and discuss.
Before we wrap up this conversation, I want to bring it back to our listeners for a minute. What are some practical steps that they can take right now to start creating more balance in their own lives, even, without any fancy AI assistance?
Yeah, that's a great question. While it is fascinating to imagine, a future with AI helping us find balance, we can't just sit back and wait for the technology to arrive. What are some things we can actually do today to create more balance in our own lives right now?
Yeah, like a lot of times we get really caught up in what the future could hold, but we kind of forget about what we can do right now to make our lives better. So it's like taking a personal inventory of our time and energy and all of our commitments, like figuring out where those little imbalanced hotspots are.
Exactly. Ask yourself, where are you feeling overwhelmed? Where are you feeling depleted? Are you constantly stressed about work? Are you neglecting your own well-being? Or are you feeling disconnected from the things that really matter to you? And once you pinpoint those areas, you can begin to explore ways to address them.
That makes a lot of sense. But even when we know something is off, actually changing our habits can be so tough.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some practical strategies that we can use to shift those imbalances?
One of the most powerful tools, I think, even in our, tech-driven world, is setting boundaries. It's so easy to feel pressured to be on all the time, but learning to say no is crucial. Protect your time and energy by setting limits on work hours and really carving out that dedicated space for things that recharge you.
I will admit that saying no is something that I really struggle with.
Sure.
Do you have any tips for getting better at setting those boundaries?
Oh, it definitely takes practice, but start by recognizing your own limits and prioritizing what truly matters most to you. Remember that saying no to some things allows you to say yes to the things that really align with your values and goals. And it's not selfish. It's about making sure that you can really show up as your best self in all areas of your life.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great way to reframe it for sure. So what other strategies can we use to find more balance in our day-to-day lives?
Another really powerful practice, and one that doesn't require any technology at all, is mindfulness. Taking even just a few minutes each day to simply be present can make a huge difference.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness, but I'll confess I haven't really explored it very much.
Yeah.
What are the benefits, especially when it comes to finding that balance that we're talking about?
Well, mindfulness really helps us shift out of that, constant doing mode and reconnect with ourselves, whether it's through meditation or deep breathing or even just simply paying attention to the sights and sounds around you. Mindfulness allows us to quiet that mental chatter and find a sense of stillness.
So it's about hitting the pause button on autopilot, like in our lives.
Yeah.
And reconnecting with what's happening in the present moment.
Precisely. And when we're more present, we're less reactive and more intentional in the choices that we make. We can really start to identify the things that truly nourish us and make conscious decisions to prioritize those things.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've explored this concept of integrity, delved into the potential of AI and what it could hold, and even discussed some really practical strategies for finding more balance right now.
Right.
Any final thoughts for our listeners today before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think as we move towards a future that's increasingly shaped by technology, it's so essential to remember that the journey toward balance really begins with us as individuals. We can absolutely embrace the potential of AI while staying grounded in our values and taking those proactive steps to create a life that feels truly aligned and fulfilling.
I love that. To our listeners, remember that finding balance isn't about achieving some perfect state. It's really about ongoing progress and making those conscious choices that support your overall well-being. And whether AI plays a role in that journey or not, the power to create a more balanced life ultimately rests in your hands.
And don't forget about that question we posed earlier. If you had access to those personalized AI insights, what would you most want to understand about your own life? And what areas could you use more balance in? Let that be a starting point for your own exploration.
That's a great point. That is a perfect note to end on. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into integrity, AI, and the quest for balance. We hope that you will continue exploring and continue questioning and keep striving to create a life that really reflects your values and brings you joy. We'll see you all next time.
This is DigitView.